Hello, and welcome to this call on mental health. Before I introduce the other people, I would just like to remind everybody that due to the nature of this call, some content might be sensitive for somebody. So please look after yourself, and if you need a break, this will be registered. So please look after yourself, and I will ask the other people in this call to join us. And also thank you to Quincy for doing all the tech bit. And there we go. Welcome to our lovely guests. And I'll just briefly introduce myself so I get this out of the way. I'm Tony. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a mental health first aider. And besides, we're not qualified professional in psychology or therapists. We're just people that care. Just wanted to clarify that. So I will let you introduce yourself and let you feel at home.
Hey everyone, I'm Hal. I've got two jobs, like an increasing amount of Londoners. Both of them are in mental health. One of that is me working as a therapist for just under a decade. And I think we are calling ourselves LGBT BDSM affirmative therapists. Doesn't slip easily off the tongue, but I'm working with that and I'm quite enjoying it. So, yeah. Looking forward for this. Cheers.
Next. Flash.
Oh, you
Yeah,
want me
okay.
to go first?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Buumi. I am not a registered or trained mental health professional. I'm just a doggo that likes to reach out to people and check in with them and make sure they're all right. Former UK and Europe title holder, and I started the Lend a Paw campaign. Two simple premise. Check your own mental health to make sure that you're in a good place, and check in on others to make sure that you're sharing the support. But that's me.
Hey.
And I'm the Flash. I'm not a professional psychologist, but I do my best to support everyone, to create a safe place to talk to me or friends of mine, and to take care of yourself.
You also have a blog, am I right?
Yes.
You do? Yeah, I'm not calling out people. I just think that we all have our little projects where we try to make the kink community more mental health friendly. And that's also why I wanted to talk about this because May was the mental health awareness month, and this is Pride Month, so I think is also an important um, reminder that mental health is very important. And I think we all have different experiences and backgrounds. Uh, uh, I was elected trainer UK, so my area of expertise is mostly like pet play, but I'm also generally in kink. Um, and I wanted to hear a bit from all of us, like to trying to identify why is mental health so important in kink. One of the reflection and one of my conversations started with vanilla people about kink is the community where I feel the most welcome because most of our are neurodivergent, and if we're not, we're like kind of open, or I hope to, about diversity, and sometimes or often kink is used as a way to cope and to kind of empower ourselves and process trauma often. Um, this is just a general intro. I was curious to see how you as a therapist, how how often do you think mental health is kind of left in a corner in the kink community?
Good God. To be honest with you, at least in our kink community, we have much more of an awareness that we do need to talk about the things that is really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But is it done? Not to the extent that it should. And there are lots of variables for that as well. A lot of, by the way, especially for us men, we're not taught to be really emotionally present. We don't learn this from our fathers, that's for sure. We don't, because they haven't been taught this. We don't learn this at school, sadly. But that is precisely what us as proper Kingsters need to have an awareness of what we actually want, like, dislike. We need to talk about the difficult things that causes us stress. There is no way around it. You know,
Dash says woof.
There is no way around it. I can, by the way, can I also give you instantly a warning? I've been told many a times I'm a German guy who can talk for England. So when you want me to rein it in, let me know. But this is one of the things that is absolutely important, and I'm really privileged to be here. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, I mean, that's why also I wanted people from other countries. Like, I'm originally from Italy, and I grew up with a lot of stigma around mental health, and especially therapy, psychiatrist, and medication were always seen as a last resource for people when they're like in serious
absolutely.
situation. And moving to the UK, kind of noticed there was a different attitude.
Yeah.
And even at the doctors, you will have more information. I mean, unfortunately, the resources are not always the best, but there is a lot of more conversation, and I've noticed that as well as work. Well, I was trained as mental health first aider at work.
Cool.
And one of the reasons was like I want to kind of be open about it. I've always been very, very honest with people about my mental health. I suffer from depression and anxiety. And for many years, I didn't realize that actually I could have a future and that things actually get better. So it's always I kind of wanted to bring this message of hope.
Absolutely, yeah. I know what you mean, by the way, with the stigma. I have Turkish parents. 20 years in, and my mother still has absolutely no idea what I'm doing as a job in terms of when I keep on saying mental health. She has no idea. It's just anathema that in certain cultures still that people would share their most inner, delicate, intimate things to a complete stranger and then pay them.
Yeah.
Forget it, So, but yeah, this is kind of the job we're doing right now. We're making sure we're visible. Whatever we feel is valid.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen also like Bluff doing some campaign on Time to Talk, because the thing about like it's not only like men. I always feel like also maybe more dominant people, more tops. Like I was discussing with a friend, and I asked him, "Can you tell me what do you think is a topic that we should discuss?" And one of them was like, "How do we advocate about our mental health when we are in a DS dynamic? So we are in a kink dynamic. How do we actually advocate about our mental health?" And that was something I wanted to ask all of you. Because I think if we never talk about this, it's always like, well, it's nice on posters, but I wanted also people to talk about it, like not only, it's always like kind of, post stories, but I wanted us to be also discussing about it.
Do you guys want to go first? Or?
Do we just chip in?
Yeah, just a chat. Yeah, of course.
So to kind of think about the question you've just asked there, I kind of want to take it up a step first, because I think talking with your partner or partners in any relationship is equally as important. I'm fortunate enough that that Tuklin, my partner, is very aware of his mental health. and he makes sure that he checks in on me, and he can always tell when my energy is dipping, because there'll be little things that I do, and then he'll remind me. So, shall we go and kind of do something restful to kind of recover? So I think in any relationship, I think having a good awareness of self and awareness of where each other is at, I think is always good. I think where there's a power dynamic and where that power dynamic comes into play, it's even more important, because I think from the Dom, I suppose there's always kind of like a yes sir kind of answer, and I think the Dom might potentially not want to kind of think that there is anything wrong if their sub is telling them that they're fine, and at the same time the sub may feel that, and going back to that kind of that stigma historically, where people are told not to kind of speak up, it might kind of just perpetuate that. Oh, I can't really kind of say that I'm feeling a bit crap at the moment, because I still want to perform for my dom and be a good sub. So I think it's even more important in a sub dom that you get the opportunity to step away from that and have that conversation, and then decide, okay, can we step back into it now, or do we want to give it a little bit more time to kind of make sure that we're feeling good? So I think communication, honest communication with each other in any relationship is a good basis to start.
Yeah, and kick it up a notch. It's an open and honest conversation two ways. It's not because you're dominant that you get to say everything. Even a dom needs to listen, and even a sub can speak up their mind if they don't feel comfortable with things. And that's the thing they tend to forget a lot of the times. When I look here in Belgium, when they hear I'm Pup Flash, they immediately think, oh, so you're submissive. And then I have to explain, well, no, I'm an alpha, I am a switch, blah, blah, blah. And they never see the line of the differences in emotions. Because if you're dominant, you cannot have any emotions. You need to be tough and things like that. And I think those are the things we need to fight, that we show them that, yeah, even if you're dominant, you still have feelings. You can show your feelings. Everyone who knows me knows that I take the lead, but if I don't feel well, I will tell you, now is the time to take a quiet moment. Let me cry if I need to cry, and everything is okay.
I can absolutely guarantee you this cliche of us dominance, of the tops not meant to be emotionally there, is a residue from the religious bullshit we've been imposed in our upbringing. It's the ghost of Abraham, as I call it. We really don't need this. I come from a Muslim background as well, so I know about the Mediterranean machismo, and it kills people. It's one of the reasons why the suicide rate is so high among us men, particularly, because we've never been given the tools to be really emotionally present and talk what really pisses us off, what causes us grief. For any relationships, and I would say particularly for any kind of a kink relationship, it's even more important. When one of my subs come, we first of all, I'll put the kettle on first of all. Yes, that's how British I've become. I'll crack open a beer, we sit ourselves down and we talk. We not instantly go to shagging, we talk. Okay, I might put my boot on his lap, he likes this. We make it ourselves comfortable, and then we catch up. And then we gradually ease in, and we both come down on a nice common denominator, and then we begin to play. Because even the pre-talking and us coming down together on a nice level already is a bit horny, and then we start playing. It's quite nice to have a natural flow of things, and the more authentic you can be with yourself, the better. Yes, it's one of our major jobs as men, to be aware of our own vulnerabilities and fragilities. Why have we got these? Because we're human beings. We're first of all human beings, and then we're men or women
and pups and human pups.
Absolutely.
Pets.
Plus for pups as well. Absolutely. We're all sentient beings. you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the importance of like well, the aftercare and also check-ins, because in my experience, I had that situation where maybe my mental health wouldn't be so great, and I've noticed like kind of um, maybe my subs being like, oh, that there's this person is not fun anymore, and I felt like if I was like I was being vulnerable, and I didn't realize that well, for some people sometimes you see it as a very performative role.
Mm.
And I was like, listen, it's also for your care that I'm being honest. And I always say there is no point in pushing your boundaries. If your mental health is no good,
Yeah.
you need to be
Yeah.
honest with
Yeah.
yourself and with the other person,
Absolutely.
because you will you will then associate, possibly you risk to then associating this dynamic or relationship or playtime to something that's no good. And also it might make it like sort of collapse, rather than, okay, I'm not doing so well, I'm being honest, how can we work on it, should we take a break? And then it will make the thing last longer. That's why I also always say setting your boundaries is not just like, okay, I have this or that pain tolerance. Is not always about pain. It might be also like, this situation might be difficult for me. And especially on the sub perspective, like you, especially if you're new to it, you kind of don't want to sound like, oh, this is a touchy thing I don't want to do, but I don't want to disappoint them, so I will do it anyway. And I've learned it on myself, and I precluded myself from maybe having a longer, healthier DS relationship, that I could do it. And um, we have another guest, that's uh, Stupsi.
She's gone. Sorry, she's just.
Oh, okay. That
I can
okay.
if you want.
No, it's okay.
We'll have Stupsi back in a bit.
That's all
Sorry,
right.
I'll
Well,
come from
it's
behind the
it's
curtain.
live. It's the beauty of life, anyway.
She'll be back in a few minutes. She's just getting off the station.
No worries.
Can I link back to the first question you asked?
Yeah.
Which was around general kind of kink, why we do it. And I'm going to link it back through to what we were just talking about. So my view of kink is that we're all into these specific things that kind of excite us or kind of or turn us on. And I think the community that kind of built up around that, in order to find other people that were into those things that kind of make us happy and feel good about ourselves, you had to kind of talk to people. And so I think why the kink community and BDSM community is so tight knit is because of the fact that we've had to grow from those connections, and that's kind of where we are today. But I think especially some of the more kind of power play, power dynamic related kinks, I think there is the expectation that you have to set those boundaries. And so by virtue of being able to set those boundaries, you are more open to having those conversations around what are your worries, what are your concerns, and that can potentially lead into deeper conversations around, well, how's your mental health at the moment, and are you doing all right, and how's work? It's like, and then you can decide, oh, maybe today isn't the right day to kind of do this scene, but let's sit and chill and have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. So I think by a consequence of how the community has formed over the years, I think that has allowed us a good opportunity within the community to be able to kind of initiate those conversations, but they probably don't happen as much as they need to, because I think there's still a lot of learning for people to be doing. So like new people coming in and kind of learning the ropes of what it means to be a Leatherman, or kind of what it means to be into rope play or impact play. So it's always going to be a constant learning experience for everybody involved.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. By the way, about the boundaries, which is really key, that is really tied up with us needing to be authentic as the kinksters that we are. because with authenticity comes an awareness of our playing field. We know what our potential playing field is, so we'll know what we're into, what we'd love to explore, what we're not going to do. So with the playing field comes as well the boundaries of that field, and we need those boundaries. And the more we are aware of our own boundaries, the more we'll be prone of being aware of the boundaries of other people. There's no way around it. This is really important, and the more we can arrange ourselves, the better.
I mean, and there will always be a situation where we're learning something new, maybe about ourselves.
Yeah.
And the kind of thing like we can't always well part of why kink is so appealing sometimes is because it's very controlled, but also the moment where something happens that is not so controlled, we need to well kind of put that in the it can happen, how do we react to it. And what I say is also like if I meet somebody for the first time, like okay, I know your name, I know our other stuff, you can't for the first time you meet somebody like unveil all your history and some stuff. Sometimes I feel like because some part of my story can be triggering or can be a content that somebody else cannot listen in that moment, it takes longer, and sometimes I do feel I can feel frustrated. And I think that's the feeling some other people might have, is I have this baggage, with this luggage with me that I need somebody else to carry a bit with me just in the moment I explain it to them. And sometimes it's such a big self-reflection for us. But I think we can start having this conversation also if we try to remove that sort of stigma, and being open where possible. Like of course, like I don't want any stranger to come and tell me, oh, where your trauma comes from, because well, that's a bit is another boundaries that you're just breaking. But that's why when I met Flash, it was the time I was judging the Belgium election, and I remember you talking very passionately about your story. And I'm not a massive fan of people saying, "Oh, you're brave for doing that," because I'm like, I'm brave because I'm open about it, but it's not automatic. Not all people will have the same level of growth or strength, or maybe not always. And I think we always have to keep in mind, like as you said, we're people. So even as a dom, as an handler, as a rigger, we're people. So we're made of flesh, and is talking about feelings like is something I noticed a lot since I started taking testosterone, was the way I started processing feelings was very different. And I think sometimes like cisgender people, I'm assigned male at birth or assigned female at birth, it's not always a linear experience feeling feelings. But for me it was like I noticed since starting taking testosterone, it changed so much the way I process my feelings. And that was something very new, and is an experience I often talk to people about, because I wasn't expecting it to be so different. And it gave me a little insight on maybe what somebody that was assigned male at birth might be feeling. And it opened my eyes a lot.
How was it different from when before you started to
well that's my experience. So before, I would say I always describe it as Lego bricks. Like you have those, like Lego bricks can become very tiny. So before starting taking testosterone, I'm assigned female at birth, so well, I would say majority of my hormones were estrogen, so I would feel like a lot of different little feelings. So I would say like I had a lot of little tiny breaks. And since starting testosterone, I started feeling them as they were, those big bricks we use for toddlers, maybe. So I wouldn't say I feel less or more.
Bricks, the bigger ones.
Yeah, I feel feelings in
Lego.
bigger chunks. Not, I don't want to like that. That's what I feel and the way I describe it, and it can be different for everybody. But I felt like also the difficulty in processing feelings, and this sort of I had this is I had like of delay processing feelings. And it's not until I saw a tweet by a trans guy saying, just to make you aware about this, because we talk so much about physical experience, physical changes, that we never discuss actually on emotional changes. And this goes back to how often we see there is a bit of like toxic masculinity and patriarchy that we drag around, and it doesn't influence only men. It's like the way the society is structured as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's a running theme in my therapy work. Usually, most of the guys I'm getting in, by the way, it doesn't matter so much if they're straight or gay, particularly a bit more possibly with straight guys. It's usually where the relationship suffers because they just can't communicate, or they keep on missing out on really important nuances, where the partner keeps on screaming, "You just don't hear what I say," and the guy is just lost. And I really like the brick analogy here, Tony. I really have to go to the small little individual steps and bricks the guy has never properly been taught. And one of the key homeworks, yes, I'm a bit of a patronizing daddy in my therapy work as well. I give homework. This is one of the ongoing exercises I ask my clients to do. Practice being emotionally present. Switch off the noise up here. Practice listening to not only what your partner says, but what is said between the lines. That's where the gem is. And usually when people are able to hone in on the unspoken, sometimes where the words just simply leave us bereft, that's where really things change and people actually then find towards each other. It's really important that we're being validated what we're feeling, what we're going through, as opposed to trying to fix something that might not be a problem as such. Again, that's something what a lot of guys make a mistake. And the more we can chime in on a common emotional denominator, the better.
I saw on TikTok, I think it was a few weeks ago. I think one of the poster may have been a therapist, but they were in a relationship and they were kind of trying to dismiss the fact that it should always be 50-50 in a relationship. And what she was saying was, actually, some days it might be 80-20 because one of you might be having a bad day. So therefore the other person has to maybe pick up some of that slack. But actually, some days it might be 20-20. And that's at the point that you both think, oh, we need to take some time and kind of chill and relax. So I thought it was a really kind of nice way of positioning how a relationship should work. It shouldn't be 50-50 because sometimes you might not be able to give 50%, but you might be able to give 20. And so I thought it was a really kind of like unique way of looking at it. So. Well,
it's teamwork, isn't it? You're 100% one team, and you need to distribute the jobs and help each other out. Any kind of a relationship is a symbiotic relationship. We've got mutual needs.
And there's always kind of... Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and sometimes we're not going to be up. Sometimes we're not going to be even doing the 10%, and that's fine too. Absolutely.
It's the spoon theory that I often like try to share it around. It's such a good way to measure kind of like, let's say, your energies, especially if somebody is neurodivergent or they have chronic illness, if they're disabled, and you can measure your energy are there. They are like 20 spoons. How many spoons does it take me to go through a day? And it's a good analogy because sometimes an act of kindness to ourselves is like to manage the spoons around us. It doesn't mean you don't care, but sometimes I always say like, I'm a boat. If I sink, I cannot help others get on it to not drown. And kind of, the superhero, I'm saying superhero because we have also pop flesh here, like, is that sort of like superhero feelings where you always want to help everybody and you're always asking how are they, and you don't find the time to ask yourself, well, wait a minute, how I'm actually doing.
I think Stupsi's ready to join in.
Wait.
Hello, Stupsi.
Hello, my beloved people. I am here right now from work. We have a lot to do right now, and yesterday I was on the dentist and I have a new implant, but so I don't know teeth in it. Sorry for that.
No worries. It's all good.
Hi.
And
And
welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you here.
Well, we did a round of we have a comment about community. Are there kink events where mental health is mentioned, talked about, even if not in the focus by professionals? Something like a mental health stand at Folsom elections.
I mean, there is Darklands. They do sessions about mental health, which is excellent. I'm now going to shamelessly self-plug myself because in London, there's the London Alternative Market, and they're doing peer sessions. So one is about bondage, shibari, anything with that. And the other one is about mental health. And I'm going to be doing one of the workshops for precisely that reason. So that especially, I'm going to be doing a mental health talk about communication, why it is particularly for men so difficult to communicate their feelings, their wants and needs. So yes, it is getting better. I would say there are more and more kink events where actually, aside from the physical stuff like bondage and whatever, the psychological and emotional mental health aspect is also explored, which I think is a really positive move. Then again, I would say that I'm biased, obviously. So
I think it's great to call out specific events that kind of do mental health kind of talks, and they engage with their
and Recon as well. I think Fetish Week, Recon. I think that's the one, two. Sorry.
That's right. I think the lender pool that I set up, and I know that Stupsi set up a new mental health activity. So I'll let Stupsi introduce herself in a second. But I think things like lender pool are important to kind of spread the message online as well as at events. But Stupsi, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us about your project?
Okay, also my name is Stupsi, and my new project is Lend a Leash. It's a little bit for mental health, because I'm suffer from mental dysfunctional depression and fear of everything you can't imagine. It's a whole life. It's for so many years. I have 5 therapies. It's not so easy, but for the time I get older, it would be a bit better. And now I can say I'm in a good feeling about to talk about it. I'm very open about it. It's so important to be open about it, because obviously at my work, my chef told me, "Oh, you are so sensitive about so many things." But no, I'm not sensitive. I have illness, mental health, and it's in the puppy scene here in Berlin. I think it's so important to show or to give a safe space for so many young people, to give a place who can say, you are a little bit understand, you can be who you are, and tell me what happened. And it's so important. I think in Berlin we have so many puppies and stuff. It's unbelievable, and it's a important thing. Maybe a new time problem. I don't at the past the people don't say about mental illness or something like that, because you are crazy. But at the new time, I think it's so important. But on my family, it's my mother has it, my grandmother has it, my sister and I. We have it all together, and it's so important to be open for it and to show we are strong, and we are here, and we can so strong for the community, we can so strong for our lives and for another lives. And it's important to say, yes, I can and we can. And this is my project, to give a little help and say, come on my side, take a little time and need a little rest or something like that. And so it's important for me to show this to the community.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
And I think the most important is we can, never I can. Because
Yes,
for everyone,
absolutely.
we're not alone. We all have our kinks, we all have our history, and we all can share it. We
Yeah.
can
Yes.
support each other in every way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, spot on.
It's absolute.
Can I comment on this? I not only agree with what you said 100%, I'd like to elaborate on it. It's that important. Not only is the we absolutely crucial for us as a community, it does start with us individually. There's one thing that annoys me in our scenes. We have a lot of infighting and bitching and backstabbing, and this doesn't help at all. Usually it's
Absolutely.
because someone is, remember, hurt people hurt. But that's only an explanation. It's not a justification. We have to be working on ourselves and our pain, on our traumas. Hence why we increasingly have kink affirmative therapists. And once we take responsibility for our own actions, we are able as well to be kinder towards others. It breaks my heart, the sheer volume of members of our communities who are really, really harsh on themselves, who are really kicking themselves, who kind of nearly hate themselves. It really breaks my heart. And I have to tell them, look, one of the key things is discover the kindness within you. Learn
Absolutely.
to be relentlessly, mercilessly kind and forgiving towards yourself. Stop beating yourself up and focus on the positive little action every day.
Yes.
Embrace yourself, celebrate yourself with all of the things that are given to you. It could be that you might have a tendency for being depressed. You might have anxieties then and when. You might be on the spectrum. You might be ADHD, or you might be a really filthy kinkster. Awesome. Celebrate it all. That's you. And the more we can find the kindness in ourselves, the more we'll be prone of seeing it in others too. Because we're all fuck-ups on two legs in one form, trying to make the most out of this messy world we're in. And it isn't an easy job.
Absolutely.
So when we can be forgiving towards ourselves, we will be easier to forgive others should they have said something that has upset us. Should they have done something that might have hurt us.
I think it's important.
It goes both ways.
Sorry. Yeah, I think it's important that both of those two things you mentioned, so Stupsi, creating those safe spaces, and kind of having that, knowing that the people around you won't judge you. I'm just looking at the question that was posed around connection with substance abuse. I think
I will just read the comment whole. So it says, I think the community used to focus more on mental health from basically STI point of view. The mental health part was very suppressed, and I think a lot of it is connected with substances abuse too.
Yeah. So I think, and it's something that's been said many times over the years, that the first thing to kind of recognize is that you have a problem. So whether that's you're suffering from depression, or you're having a breakdown, or you're overusing substances, it's recognizing that that's me, and if I want to do something about that, then I need to accept that and then seek help for it. And as many of us have said on this call, we're not professionals. We can certainly listen to someone and maybe offer suggestions, but we could never help someone directly. But there are professionals out there that can offer help with mental health, with depression, with substance abuse, with any problems. But the kind of the first stage is knowing that you have that problem. And I think that's just kind of key to call out.
Yeah, I mean, there was the comment about events setting up mental health. Behind events, usually there are groups, and usually in their groups, these groups, there is always people that will say, maybe I'm a mental health first aider, maybe like there are conversation ongoing on groups of people, like, and I've seen a lot of like openness about it, and of kind of like we shouldn't always educate others, but I've well, I'm in many groups, and usually there will be somebody that you can address if there is the need of being talking about mental health situation. And I think like why having representation matters is because people can see that other have been through similar experiences. I said that before, to give kind of hope. We're still here, and we're still having fun, we're still enjoying ourselves. And why would we spend our free time to talk about this? Is so others one day will feel that they can do it as well. Like there is no shame in saying we have issues.
Yeah.
And yeah, just trying to kind of also learn that to have a vocabulary, because if you never learned how to say, how to describe your feelings, you have to learn about it. And something that really struck me was once a therapist told me, you know, the voice in your head that's very self-critical, it might be coming from where you grow up.
Yeah.
So maybe for example, for me, it's my mom voice or a teacher voice. Like if you never felt safe before talking about your feelings, if you always have to repress them, it can take a long time to learn how to express them. That's why I feel like sometimes going to therapy is good, to also have somebody else. Like as we said again, we're not professionals, so I might not have all the vocabulary. I'm not giving people diagnosis or anything, and we're just trying to kind of share our experiences. And for me, it's always been like, if I felt something bad for so many years, or if I struggle, at least I can use this to help somebody else. And I'm very grateful that we can be also together sharing this.
Absolutely.
You're on mute.
Hello.
You're muted,
You're on
Quincy.
mute.
There we go. I just because it come up with substance abuse, as someone who has had substance abuse and stuff like that, I thought I would chime in and say hello. And it was just my pitching in that sometimes even recognizing it doesn't mean you need to stop if you're not in the place to stop taking that substance. Don't put pressure on yourself to stop there and then. Recognition is a huge step in itself, and taking that time to recognize it is a huge step. Allow yourself to process each step of the path, because if you jump too quickly, you're going to fall back into that cycle straight away, because you're going to feel bad when you maybe take it on a bad day, and then you're just going to fall right into the cycle. Allow yourself to recognize that you've taken those substances. And also maybe first step is risk management, learning how to do it a bit more safely than you have been doing. Have you been taking it riskily, sharing needles? Are you taking it off other people rather than sourcing it correctly? You're taking it from parties and stuff like that. Think about safety first, then start working on that process of stopping if you want to stop, or reducing if you want to reduce. It's not as cut as dry as I'm taking substances, stop. It's a lot more difficult. It's risk management, it's usage amounts, then it's stopping as well. There's a lot of processes in that. But I thought I'd chime in and say from substance use history. I'll disappear now.
What are your thoughts on limits, boundaries that are related to past traumas? Can someone make that connection and try to heal by exploring kink, or is it traditional therapy safer?
Ooh.
That's a complex one, and again, I think
guys, if you see me squirming, there's a good reason. I really would, as a kink therapist, I never would mix those two. I'd never recommend someone tries to resolve his childhood trauma through kink play. There's a lot of discussions about this. Let me elaborate a bit. Apologies if I'm on my soapbox here and geek out a bit, but this is really important. we have our private selves. We have our professional selves, the way we talk with our bosses and work colleagues. We have our sexual selves. And our childhood traumas, they have such history, especially when they're unresolved, and they can be triggered by any kind of things. But they also can be aggravated during a BDSM session, which could actually lead for people being re-traumatized. So unless it is properly resolved with a therapist, outside of any kind of a sexual context, I really wouldn't blur those boundaries.
I mean, also, like, I would like to say, like, sorry, just wanted to say, it's not all, it can, like, play is not always, I don't want always to say, like, BDSM is always sexual, like, any sort of, like, way people express themselves in.
Yeah, fair enough. The point is, the needs of our sexual selves is different than the needs of our emotional selves. And sometimes they can clash. We all have experienced when we had those sexual fantasies and we tried that with that partner we finally found, and then we found out, no, actually this isn't horny, stop, red. This is similar.
And I think it's not so easy to say to heal by exploring kink. I think we have, as you said, the sexual one in us, and we have the suffering one. And not only you can heal to say about, oh, I have a good BDSM session for something like that, and it's getting better. It's so easy. It's not so easy in the whole time, I think. There. When it's so easy, we don't need any therapists or Krankenhaus, wie heißt es so, hospital or something like mental hospital. It's not so easy when I read this. It's so.
By the way, saying that, it's actually precisely during kink play when we recognize when suddenly a hard border, a hard boundary arises that actually could lead something we need to look into.
Yeah. Okay.
So actually, ironically, BDSM play can be fantastically insightful here.
Yeah.
Hence why I'm constantly on my soapbox, and I'm going to have one day Asapo who's going to carry my soapbox for me. I'll tell you guys. But that is one of the reasons why I'm constantly going on about emotional awareness. The more aware we are, how else we could possibly be triggered, the more we could actually use this for our own mental health. When we suddenly have a red signal coming up, it might be something worth looking into. And I would bring this to my therapist. I would bring this to someone who is really quite qualified in kind of childhood
You need somebody that's kink friendly, though. That's something I wanted to, like, talk with other people. Was like, we need to make. I wouldn't say at least. I want to we need to kind of get resources in each of our region and try to kind of because it's difficult sometimes. Like, if I have kink related trauma, who do I talk about to that will not judge me or have a knowledge about it, being themselves kinksters? And coming back on the comment, I just wanted to say, sometimes people, when they're more aware and when they're safe to do so, they will use kink to kind of empower themselves and like being in charge of their own experiences where before maybe they couldn't.
I think I was gonna, so just kind of like leading on from what you just said there, I think that leads you into headspace, which is it's not trauma, but it is a sense of self which relaxes you to the point that you can be mindful. So pup headspace is obviously a really popular one. There's that many pups out there. A lot of pups aren't sexual. A lot of pups enjoy just putting the hood on, getting down on all fours, and only being worried by the fact that there's a squeaky ball in front of you, or there's someone that's kind of like saying that you're kind of a good boy or a good girl or a good pup. So the kind of the mindfulness aspect of headspace, and it doesn't have to be pup. I'm sure that gimps enjoy being bound and just left to their own thoughts and in quiet contemplation. I'm sure that's a headspace I've not got experience of, but I would imagine it is as cathartic. Is that the right word? Yeah, cathartic in that way. So I think as much as you've got the kind of the trauma boundaries and therapy, I think there's a middle ground that kink allows us to unwind and relax and de-stress to an extent. I think that's important to mention. But you always have to take the gear off at the end of the day. So you always need to make sure that you are looking after yourselves outside of the kink world.
Yeah, it's always the thing, like I'm quoting Quincy now, and they're going to be super flattered that I'm doing so, is that because we're perpetrating activities that are giving us gratification, this gratification can kind of become sort of addictive. The hormones we're getting through can be a bit addictive, and it's actually like in my journey, in my pet play journey, at some point I felt like every time I would remove my hood and get out the headspace, I would be like feeling like if I got a cold bucket thrown on me, and then I realized that I needed to look after my mental health because it was difficult for me to coming back to my everyday headspace. And then I realized, okay, I need to take a break. I put my hood on a side, talk about this, figure things out. And if I was a dom, I would have done in the same thing in that moment. If I was in a DS relationship, I would say, I need a moment. I'm being aware now. This is going on. And with anybody, like I feel like through communication in any relationship, I wanted to say, like, if this person doesn't care of your own well-being, if they just see you of somebody that's doing something to them and not something with them, I would be putting like red flags. Because like people should care for you in the dynamic and outside the dynamic.
Absolutely.
Not always, like, and even if your kink is, you know, degradation or whatever, there are like you have to be aware that what you're doing, there's safety aspects. There is not always just physical. There is a mental health limits, and there are consequences and safety in that. Because it's always like, you know, be careful, do your stretching when you're a rope bunny, but again, aftercare, talking through things, and also like kind of unwinding our roles and just being ourselves.
I just wanted to comment, by the way, what you just said as well. When the gear comes off, when we're hitting sub drop, stay with it. That is also valid, and you're spot on, by the way. If we have someone else there with us who stays with us when we are going through that emotional trajectory, that in itself can be very healing, you know. You see, there's no way around it. It's whatever we're doing has such us. Isn't this one of the horny and wonderful things of us being kinksters? I do think the way we shag is significantly more intense. That is one of the reasons we go through much more intense emotional trajectories. So either the headspace or when we're hitting sub drop or top drop, it's really interesting and important stuff to pay attention to. So.
Yeah, I never heard the word like dom drop in my previous years, especially in Italy. Maybe sub drop, yes. It was fairly recent, like in since I live in the UK. Before I never heard it, and then I realized that why is always the sub drop we talk about and never the top or dom drop?
No, us tops we drop too. Come on, because the whole adrenaline rushes through the body, and then we're all getting a bit, and then we need to wind down. So that applies always for both. Remember, it's teamwork, isn't it?
But for the comment, let me say I have the last therapy on a good woman, a good therapist in Erlangen, and it's around about 5 years. And we talk about my illness and my mental state, and I talk to her yeah, maybe it could be get together with my BDSM love or my pup play, and she looked on me and said, "Are you ready? Are you for sure saying this to me? It's not the important thing. You are here. You are on the important problems here, and not for your play." This was a good sentence she said to me. I really feel comfortable. It was so nice. She said, so it's not important for me. It's not important for this therapy, and this is so great for me. I feel great about this.
Yeah.
Really.
It seems she validated you, what you were going through at the moment.
Yes, and I think so. Eventually, I'm not good because BDSM. I'm not good because pup play. She related this.
Yeah.
Absolute, and it was so great for me. I can't explain.
Yeah. Yeah. Pay attention whatever comes up. It's actually precisely when a session is over, isn't it? When we're hitting sub drop. I've noticed a lot of people, they kind of go through this brief period of feeling ashamed. Or, by the way, what you said, Tony, usually applies here. Usually the childhood voices from our parents might come up here right now during sub drop. It's sort of a running theme with any of my kink clients. There's that small residue of shame, and I tell them, look, what you're hearing is most likely the soundtrack of your childhood. Stay with it and recognize it, that is an old soundtrack from someone who was significantly more fragile and younger than you are right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
pay attention to it, and the more aware you are, the more it's just going to be an echo.
I mean, also like the kink community, many of us are queer, and generally, I would say like our experiences in often like maybe like as Stupsi was saying, maybe it's a modern thing. We talk more about certain topics, and it's that kind of awareness. But like growing up and maybe being bullied for being different, or a lot of us were so isolated that maybe like it's a bit like it can be embarrassing to be saying like that past me was struggling with this, because a lot of people maybe say, oh, but you're so funny, you're so kind, I can't believe that maybe you have depression. Is again, it's a lot of we have a lot of stereotypes, and through media often this is happening. We have a comment on the person that asked us about the therapy and everything. They're saying thank you with a heart emoji. I agree wholeheartedly, but wanted to hear your views on topics as it might be enticing for people who dislike the idea of therapy. Yeah, again, we go through like I think the media is a double sharp kind of weapon, because they might be showing you therapy, but then again, is always kind of some kind of people that go to therapy. Like I think like somebody said, like, you know, that there's that person on TikTok that always ask what is somebody that for rich people is cool and for people that are not rich is something to be ashamed of. Like therapy for rich people is always being seen as a cool thing to do, and while people that are in different financial situation is not so cool, and it's something to be
that is actually really valid. Hence why I just brought my Turkish mother here. This isn't global therapy talking about mental health. My job as a therapist would have been done by the priest, by the vicar, by the rabbi, by the imam. But sort of Abraham's voice is a bit, well, less valid for an increasing amount of people, which really can be a good thing. However, we still need to be responsible for what goes on in our minds, in our hearts, and in our souls. And usually we need someone else. So any kind of a mental health worker and a therapist usually does the job, providing it's someone you can chime with. But the responsibility continues, absolutely. So.
And it's also like what a doctor would suggest me, like let's compare, like when I was in Italy, I would have a lot of panic attacks, and my doctor would just say, oh, you're stressed. And I was like, well, there is a thing to being stressed, and there is a thing like I can't go in the main road in my city because I'm so overwhelmed. I can't go out. This is like not stress. And while my GP here will tell me, oh, have you tried talk therapy? There is this different solution. Like I feel like they validate more what I'm telling them. I mean, I can't speak this about when I was back in Italy. I haven't lived there for so many years, and I always hope things are improving and they're changing. But I think, like, especially at work, I wouldn't be able, or I wasn't able to talk at all about maybe having depression or maybe having and trauma. And it's good that it's kind of spreading this awareness of
absolutely,
of mental health. But imagine having like, maybe I feel ashamed of something, and it's also related to kink, so maybe it's two things I feel ashamed of. I'm not,
you might conflate it, and you might not even be aware that you're doing this, that you're bringing those two things together. They have nothing to do, you know. Sorry, I've interrupted you, Tony.
No, it's all right, no problem.
The shame
the
shame you're feeling is most likely something from your childhood, but the kink is something that's important for you, especially now. So
no, absolutely. And also, if anybody has a question they can just comment, and we'll chime in as we did before.
Yeah, my bladder just kicked in. I'll be back in a jiffy. Sorry, guys.
No worries. It's also like it's hilarious to see people like saying jiffy or like very British words that people might not understand. I think it means in a moment. Buumi might help with the language barrier here.
Jiffy is in a minute. I'm trying to think of where next to go with the conversation. We've actually covered quite a lot. You're on mute again.
You're muted. Like,
oh yeah, I've got my mic. It's there. Hello. I was just going to ask Buumi a question, because I know Buumi quite well. So, why did you start the Lend a Paw, and sort of what was the reception then to now, and what's changed within the UK pet scene around mental health since you've started that project? Does that make sense? So, like, evaluate the project and how it's sort of gone for you. It might help Stupsi as well, because obviously similar projects, and anyone else who wants to do those sort of projects.
Okay. So I was Puppy UK as someone that was quite visible within the community. So, and it doesn't have to be a title holder. You could be an event organizer, or you could just be someone that's popular on social media. I had a lot of people reaching out to me, asking not just kind of about events, but they wanted someone to speak to. And I think I was maybe getting 2 or 3 messages a week from pups that just kind of wanted someone to speak to. And because I was in that position, they saw me and was like, oh, he looks approachable. Let's like drop him a message. And it really kind of, the types of conversations that I had in that kind of 12 months really kind of was quite impactful, because it showed me the range of problems that people were having. And obviously you can only help so much. There's only so much time in a day. You can't devote yourself to it 24/7. Although I'm sure that a lot of us givers would try and do as much as we could. And so that's where Lend a Paw came from. And as I said in the intro, it was 2 messages. It was, make sure that you're looking after your own mental health.
Yeah.
And then keep an eye on your friends and your local community, whether that's at an event or if you're at a larger event, local event or larger event. And just, you don't have to go and be their therapist. All you need to do is go and just speak to them and
Yeah.
see how they're doing.
Yeah.
And so when it launched, it went really well. There was a Facebook group set up. It's still going. There's a few hundred people in it. I still get messages. I still get people reaching out and asking for help and advice. Obviously, professional. I'm not a replacement for professional help, so that would always be my fallback if it was something that was beyond my ability. But yeah, I still get people talking about it. I think in the past 3 years since it was launched, I think the message of mental health has become more visible, especially after COVID. We were all locked up in our homes for 2 years, and just the mental health impacts that has had, it's helped the conversation grow and keep going. And then you have people like Stupsi. I know that you're doing your lend a leash. Flash, I know that you help a lot of pups. Tony, I know that you help a lot of people. It's great to see that there are others that want to kind of help as well in their own ways. So yeah, it's that's how it started, how it grew. It's still relevant today, as much today as it was back then.
Absolutely.
That's great. Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to work out how to use a live stream now. I've got so out of touch. Flash, I'm gonna push this one to you. This question: how do you handle new people wanting to belong in the community that might not be ready for it, but don't want to show any weakness? How can they be encouraged of taking care of their mental health? Because obviously you do your whole blog that's quite great for beginners, and you do take a few new beginners into the community. I thought you might be the best one to approach this question.
Well, I think everyone does it, but the weakness part is really hard. I don't like the word weakness, because being not ready or being not able to do something doesn't make you weak. And what I try to do is try to talk them through Telegram or online as much as I can, one-on-one, or I have really good friends who support me, who knows what my mindset is in helping people. Most of you already know a part of the group. Aston is one of them, Nubi, and we try to talk as much as we can, go out as much as we can, let them show them there's the human side, there's the pup side, there's a playful side, there's a time and place for everything, and get to know them, and then show them that if they're an alpha, they're an alpha. If they're just a beta, they're a beta. If they want to know more about puppy play, but don't want to become a pup, they can also become a supporter.
Yeah.
And Buumi, you said we've got a private chat. So you said something more about replacing weakness with lack of experience. So it's more maybe hesitance or not knowing of what's going on, or not knowing of certain topics.
I think Flash touched on it. I think it's the when you go to an event, everyone would like to think that if someone goes up to them and asks them a question, they'll be able to answer. But it's all right not knowing about something, and definitely in the kink community, that's why we're all here. It's if you don't know something, go and be inquisitive and ask about it.
Yeah.
So I think if you replace weakness with lack of experience, I think that frames it better, because then, as Flash said, you can have those conversations. You can. So what I tend to do for my event that I run is, if someone is nervous or anxious about coming, I'll say, well, come and meet me like an hour beforehand, and we'll go and have a look at the venue when it's empty. And then if you want, you can either stay while it fills up, or if you're not feeling it, you can go away and maybe come back next month, and we'll do the same thing. And it's just about kind of helping them be more comfortable in the environment and the situations that they find them in. So I think weakness is maybe a bit of a strong word. I think lack of experience kind of works better.
Do we think sometimes that framing it as weakness, people will try to push those boundaries? So if anyone has recon or grinder, you sometimes see like no limits. Sorry. And it's that sort of, they feel that they should have no limits because if they do have limits, that's the weakness. And that obviously can put in dangerous situations. So how would you, Hal, how would, sorry, that was a, a tongue twister. How would you explain that, and how would someone try to maybe depict that conversation of no limits? So if I met someone and they said no limits, how would I sort of go through that conversation with someone?
God, in all honesty, if someone says no limits, I would say run, run, run.
Red flag.
We
Red
all have
flag.
got limits.
I
We all have
always,
got limits.
I always.
Would you like a sledgehammer example? Have you heard of the Armin Meiwes case in Germany, where one cannibal found another one who wanted to be eaten? There you go.
I try to give the
We all have
comparison.
got our limits.
Yeah, that's it. We'll give the comparison that we all have our limits. If they think in terms like top or bottom, well, that's a limit. If you're a top, you will never bottom. So your limit is being a bottom. So everyone has limits.
Do we think that some people aren't aware of their own maybe mental health, their own sort of boundaries in their head, and that's why they put it?
Might be lack of
Absolutely.
experience.
It's a
They might-
complete. To be honest, I think they want to brag as well. I think they want to really come across as a really proper pervert.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work like this. In fact, you'll most likely be a danger to others. Can I give you guys another example? What really annoys me when someone says in his profile, "No safe words." Run, run.
It's like I have my car, I don't need the brakes. It's like saying I don't want the brakes on my car because I don't need them.
Yes. Seatbelts. That's what.
Absolutely.
You know. I mean, come on. By the way, one thing it sort of broke my heart a bit. The weakness. He actually put it in inverted commas. Be weak. If you're feeling weak, that's nothing to be ashamed of. Especially when you're only 18 or 19. You're not going to be knowing about anything. You're not going to have any experience. It's okay to be weak. Saying that, and this is a slight criticism, I have come across a lot of older people in our communities, and they do the bottom shaming. They do look down on the newbies, or they do say, it's not my type, whatever. You know, this is what I meant with the sexual self and the personal self. Even if we're not sexually into someone, especially the older we get, the more we kind of have a responsibility for the younger generations who join our communities. I'm sorry, there's no way around it. This is one of the reasons why I call myself a daddy. I have a kind of a responsibility, and I really enjoy it.
Something I always been ashamed, especially in kink, when I was younger. Anyway, it was like I'm demisexual, and mostly I'm homosexual, and that was a lot of shame for me. And so I had to advocate first about that, because there is such like an allosexual dominance in the society, and also like we always assume monogamy is the standard. So you kind of go in a community and having to deconstruct other bits of myself to be more appealing makes me struggle sometimes finding prey partners or people that are interested in that sort of things. And I always say, like, I'd rather not have a fast food kind of dynamic if it means I am not looking after myself on the other person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stupsi, I was just going to ask you a question. So I know that you've got a pack of quite a few pups, quite a few people, and obviously trying to manage yourself and the emotions of a group of people that you're all in a relationship with can be quite a struggle. How do you manage multiple relationships and their mental health while also centering yourself and focusing on your own mental health? Hard question.
My puppy pack, for example, are 7 dogs, and they all in a relationship, not with each other, and they are married, but Can you say the point again? The main point from this question again?
Like, how do you manage your mental health, but also being aware of everyone else's mental health in a pack dynamic?
With absolutely my puppy my puppy pack is my absolutely closest friend of mine, and they know everything about my illness and about my fear, and I know something like that about all guys in the pack, and we are the best thing is we are the best friends, like family, and we take care of each other. Especially from my youngest pup, he's 21. He's absolutely sometimes no brakes, as Tony says. My car has no brakes, and I don't use it. It's absolutely no limit for him, and I take care of him. He writes sometimes to me, oh, I take a lot of drugs and I take a lot of sexual playing, and can you help me with that? And I really feel comfortable, and I really feel important for that, and it makes me a good feeling. But when I struggle, when I have a day with it's not so good for me, and I say to him, or I say to the pack, say to me, come out, Caro. Let us do something like what good for you, and it helps a lot, I think, and that it's important for me and it's important for them, and I give all. I try to give all the puppies, they, as Buumi said, write messages to me and say, help me when we have our meeting on the first of month with the puppy community, and I give them a silent corner, and they can come to me and say, Caro or Stupsi, I'm not so strong to get into the cafe or something like that, into the community, and it's not so easy for me, but I am here for you. This is important for me to say that, and it makes me feel strong, and it makes me feel good.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about openness, being open, being aware, and having the discussions, and knowing when each other needs a break, and knowing what actually builds someone up, not brings them back down, and what can you do to build someone up without using too many of your spoons that Tony told me. Spoons are important. I'm going to disappear, and as you can probably tell, I was smoking. I do need a bit of a smoke break, so I would
No
disappear
worries.
and let you carry on with the conversation. I'll see you a bit.
Yeah, I think also because mental health and other invisible disabilities, sometimes we have to express them, and not everybody has the knowledge of body languages and this sort of stuff. So something I really cared for, and I'm caring for during my title year, is to talk to event organizer and to people and make them aware of some people's struggles, for example, in their events, and I'll make them more accessible. And there was a former Puppy UK contestant who made two little poles of the two different colors to signal to people if somebody is a more confident person or a less confident person. And of course, we don't want to always go around with like tags or stuff, but it's like, as we do with pronouns, sometimes just having the little knowledge, or for people to feel safe and know that they can go to an event organizer and, being honest, kind of have a buddy or somebody that like tells them like, I will be there for you. Because another reason why mental health is so important in kink is a lot of us maybe can be isolated at some point in their life, and we're joining a community, and it's beautiful if we feel safe and we feel supported. And also
absolutely.
if we don't feel that we need to hide certain parts of us that we might have to do in our everyday life, kink including.
I've put it on my...
sorry.
Mach ruhig. Go.
Okay, danke. I must say, I'm I must say I'm in the lucky position sometimes. People know me as an open-minded woman for mental illness, and I was on the last weekend. We were on the CSD Wittenberge. It's a short town in Brandenburg. It's so small, and we have we have 4 or 5 puppies, young puppies. They have a mental breakdown. It was too much because it wasn't over so many people, but I saw this and I feel this, and I talked to him because one of the people, one of the puppies was crying, sat on the floor and said, "Oh my God, it's so overwhelming." But I prefer to go to that puppies or to that guys or something like, and talk to him, and there are, also, dass ich da bin. Wie sagt man das? Dass ich I'm there for you.
That you're there for them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a lucky position for me that some people know Stupsi wirklich, also als open-minded for that. And I'm proud of this and would share with all of my friends and all of the community. And this is the thing what I really want to show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
We really have a bit of a responsibility the older we get, and the more we're confident in our own field. We don't underestimate how much other people can learn from us.
Yeah.
I've put it on my Bluff profile, 3297, incidentally, just chucking it out there, that if anyone wants to have a bit of a buddy to accompany him to a leather social, as an example, that I volunteer, they can approach me. Because I know for a lot of young people who join our communities, it really can be overwhelming, as Stupsi said. It really can be too much if they don't know anyone.
Yeah.
And they have no reference point or person to anyone. It really can be overwhelming. And it's helpful if we as a Kingston community are aware of this. If we have got our own little insecurities and vulnerabilities, others definitely have those too.
Yes.
And what's wrong with that? I really hope we'll one day are going to see a time where the word vulnerable doesn't need to be in inverted commas or fragile or so or
weak.
You know,
I mean, it's
those are the components that make us the human beings that we are. That applies for puppies is too, by the way, Buumi. So
that's all right. I think just kind of picking up on what Stupsi said. I was at CSD Cologne. It was probably 2019, and I remember that there was a pup who was helping another pup, and like a year earlier, I probably would have gone across and kind of tried to help as well, but I could see that they had it covered. When they had kind of split off, I went and approached the pup that had helped and just kind of thanked them for helping them, because I think as much as it's great to help those people in need, I think it's also great to make sure that those other people that maybe don't necessarily do that as a standard, I think it's good to kind of like acknowledge them and appreciate them for that. And I try to do that whenever I see it. Is if I see another pup or a Kinkster helping another Kinkster, then I'll just go and say that was a really nice thing that you did. Thank you for kind of like keeping an eye out on everybody else. So I think that's important as well as recognition for other people that do it as well. That aren't necessarily title holders or event organizers.
Absolutely.
And also showing like that sort of kindness, because sometimes like I feel like they always want to be like, oh, you know, Dom has to have that sort of like look or idea, or a little person cannot talk about their feelings, and the whole boys don't cry and sort of like narrative.
Yeah, which is shockingly still quite prevalent. you just need to travel around Europe and then further, and you still have got that attitude of boys don't cry. It's staggering. From my Muslim Turkish background as an example, my dad taught me this repeatedly throughout my childhood. He couldn't handle when I got emotional. You know.
Well, also because you never had like somebody else, like you don't have that kind of role models. So
No.
that's why I always try to be open, and even about being trans or being autistic.
Yeah.
And because sometimes like we've always been like trying to hide certain parts of us again because of you know, sort of like not being shamed or the stigma, and then nobody has idea this people exist and some mental health issue exists. So being very open and saying about it is, I think it's very helpful. And as I said, like no, you don't need to be a title holders, and
No.
no. It's also just trying to put that out. And now there's some part of us we're not used to it, is like the social media. And I've recently learned of something that's called like virtual self-harm. So it's basically going into reading comments and topics that might be hurtful for us. And if nobody tells me this is a thing, we don't realize we do it. And I feel like we really need to, like, it's great to have social media and to be able to connect with somebody from everywhere, but sometimes it can be an absolute isolating feeling. And part of our self-care should be also kind of disconnect from socials. And as you say, like, I know some people might not have the chance to meet up with other in real life or do it safely. So I would say first the safety aspect of it, and also we tend of like online sometimes we do overshare, but we still need to not forget how to connect with people with my needs, because also you need to, like, something that's very great sometimes about pet play and like the puppy dynamics is usually you will generally have an alpha and then a beta. So the alpha will delegate some aspect of their roles to their beta, and then there is the handler. But it doesn't always have to just be in these specific dynamics. It's always good to have like somebody that you know you can refer to, and do it actively. Self-care.
Isn't that the reason why we call ourselves Kingsters, for Christ's sake? Isn't that the reason why we are so proud of kind of what we're doing? Precisely that we take the liberty for us to be ourselves. If you want to be horny, we can be horny. If you want to be kinky, we can be kinky. Surely, if you want to have a good cry, we can have a good cry. If you're feeling vulnerable, surely we can be vulnerable with all of our community members. Isn't that the point of being a Kingster? That we can just be without the value judgments of others. You know, this is how I would define being a Kingster. You know,
we have the comment, as an introvert, all events are hell for me, but learn to deal with it. If too much, simply leave and enjoy something else, sightseeing, etc. I mean, it's good to learn like our coping mechanism. And what I found great in the kink community is also like, you know, also behind substance abuse, going back to that, you don't get people pressuring to maybe drink or do certain stuff. I feel like often, luckily, there is an understanding of that. It shouldn't be like a limit. I remember in Italy going, just even with my friends around, I would be like, oh, why are you not drinking, or why you're not doing something, and I always kind of feel that sort of peer pressure that can impact so much of our experience.
One more thing about being introverted, nothing wrong with that, obviously. Still try to take part in whenever Kingsters come together for having a good laugh. Just because you're an introvert doesn't mean you can't be part of that scene as well. If it makes it easier, most organizers of leather socials, gear socials, they will be happy to be contacted if you ask them, could someone maybe pick me up on the way to the venue, or if I'm approaching it, so that we can go up there together. Most of them would say, absolutely, no problem. You know, just so that someone has a bit of an introduction and doesn't need to enter the whole room full of Leatherman, Rubberman puppies on their own. So.
With another comment, what ideal word should we tend towards in community events and in one-on-one? What reflexes should we get? How we can help people open up? Well, I would say like a good way to people to open up is to be open if you can, because it's like often wearing rainbow or rainbow flags or rainbow pin for me means that somebody else knows they're safe approaching me. I would say the same. Maybe sharing your what's important. The rest of the part I didn't really understand the question, so if somebody else can help me reply to that. But how do we encourage that in community events?
What reflexes should, I don't quite get that either, what reflexes should we get? But how can we help people open up? We can help people open up by maintaining the bonds and the friendships.
Yeah, but the previous one, I think Buumi got the.
I'm gonna attempt to translate what I think reflexes mean. I think it means what kind of what should our responses be? So you kind of so what ideal world would we tend in community events? So I think diversity in events. I think it's good to have a choice of events to go to, because then you might find that you gravitate towards one that maybe has got less music and you can actually have a conversation, or you might be the type of person that wants a big dark room. So I think being able to have the options, I think, helps. I think in terms of how you kind of then develop things to support people attending those events, I think that is and Tony, I know that you did at one of the puppy events in Nottingham, you got them to do a quiet space.
That was actually already the organizer made them, yes, because one of both are autistic, so they created this quiet area. But I always bring that example every time I go around.
That's really good. And the question prior, the Master Phoenix one, they talked about their introvert, and if it was too much, they would go and do something else. It's great to have those quiet areas at events. I know Darklands tried it this year, although it wasn't as quiet as it could have been. It's nice to be able to kind of say, actually, do you know what? I don't want to leave. I just need a few minutes. And then you've got that space. So I think that's good. And in terms of one-on-one, I think it's just about get online and go on sites like Recon and just speak to people and learn about events and the types of things people do there. And I think that then kind of allows you to then figure out what is going to work for you. So,
and I think also being very clear on when they describe an event, like specify, like the more information you give, least people have an idea what to expect.
With regards to, can I just
Flash
with
yeah, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I think as well one of the reflexes, and it's something I see a lot of here in Belgium, is less boxes. For now, if there's an event, it's puppies, or it's Leatherman, or it's daddies. No, we need to be more inclusive to all sides of the Kingsters. As I said in my presentation for Puppy Belgium, is I'm into sneakers, I'm into bondage, I'm into leather, I'm into lycra, I'm into superheroes, I'm into puppies. I love it all. And the more boxes we get, if we have the reflex of not thinking in those boxes, you can create more harmony and more happy people around us.
Regarding the how can we help people open up, that indeed might not happen instantly, but the more the bonds and the friendships are forged, the deeper the emotional depth is going to be, the more you get through to people, and eventually the floodgates open up gradually. With some, it's going to happen easier. I'm a bit on the slutty side, you know. Some take a bit longer, and that's just as fine too.
No slut shaming at all.
I hope we're not slut shaming anyone, but
Well,
you
I
know,
mean,
it's also fair enough when someone takes a bit longer. He or she will also have the reasons for that. But the more we maintain our bonds and friendships in the social scenes, the more people will eventually ease in, and some, yeah, ideally.
Also, like, I was thinking, like, in big cities, like Stupsi was saying. Oh, another question for Al. For Al, could you give some hypothetical kink-related issues someone could be experiencing that would suggest they seek out kink-affirming therapy?
Well, the classic is shame. When people really noticed since the earliest days onwards that they are into bondage, leather, rubber, puppy, etc., and they can't really come out with this. Just for that is one of the central themes of my work: shame. I must admit, maybe in my arrogance, having been born and brought up in Germany, I underestimated how much shame and guilt tripping is still a prevalent issue. That is one of the main things, when someone just doesn't dare or is too afraid to go to the leather bar, to go to a kink event, you know. And don't always assume that they're young ones. I've had people in their 40s and 50s. Of just one of my clients, he can't tell it to his wife what he's really sexually is into.
Mhm.
You know, this is one of the prime examples. This is one of the reasons. By the way, we also have, for that reason, the Kink Affirmative Professionals. It's a very useful website where precisely that is tackled. The KAP, KAP professionals.org, where kink affirmative therapists, solicitors, even plumbers or so are registered. Just
Yeah,
to
we can share the
taboo.
link. We can share the links.
Yeah. So
afterwards.
there's a whole community of us who tackle precisely that. So whenever someone is afraid to come out as the proud kinkster, he or she feels deep inside, seek a therapist would be more than happy to sort of help you in this.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, like, something that I always say about why I care so much about talking about kink and stuff is because myself, I felt a lot of kink shaming, especially for me was for pet play, and it goes back to Pride, is because I was in Pride in London, and I was standing there. That's a story that I usually tell people, so Buumi probably already heard it. But I was standing there looking around, and I felt something touching my hand, and it was a human pup that was looking at me with like puppy eyes, wanted to be interacted with. And I stood there not understanding what I could do, because I was like, do I do like a dog? Do I ask the person on the leash? So it kind of make my brain ask so many questions. And what I realized is I was envying these people, and I felt I was already into kink, but that for me was too much, because in my head meant that people would know I was into that because they would see me wearing certain gear. And when I finally didn't feel any more ashamed, it was such a big relief for me, because it was like, to me, it was like I'd already the shame and the internalized homophobia and transphobia, biphobia, acephobia, and that was like kind of an extra bit to be at the time ashamed of. And
I just wanted to kind of talk about the shame thing, because I think we all go through that as well, as kinksters, whatever, the first time we go out in something, and I think it's a journey that you go through. I think more recently I thought that I was feeling shame again, and actually it wasn't shame, it was more concern for my safety. So I would say that people be mindful of the environments they're in. If you're in a European city that you've never been to before and you have to walk to a kink event, then be mindful if you are just out and proud in your gear, or even if you put a jacket on, just kind of make sure that you know when it's shame and when it's kind of fear for safety. And there's been a couple of instances that the past kind of year or so where I've had my pup stuff on, but then I've taken it off and just put it in my bag, because at first I thought it was shame, but then I was like, oh, actually, I don't think I feel safe. And that's not a shame thing. That's a personal safety thing.
Yeah,
I think it's important just to kind of say, to be able to the distinction between the two.
Same with pride. Like, you know, I travel usually on my own. I go abroad, like, is sad for me, but the moment sometimes I travel and I have to take certain badges out of my bag or my jacket, and it's due to safety reason, and now it's Pride season, so go with somebody to Pride, be mindful of that, and it also impacts our mental health, that we have to be so worried with the current climate, and it's rightful that we feel this, and this shouldn't be also shame. Like, I've seen different tags saying don't march on your own, and similar to, like, that's why it's important to have a community. And
Absolutely.
sometimes not caring about ourselves and not feeling to want to be safe, it can be another thing we should be like seeing, like that's a bell that's ringing, that we should be concerned, because if we don't care about our well-being, it means there is something going on, because there is always, like, again, the media portrait of how self-harm can look, and it's not always the stereotypical thing you can see. Sometimes is also neglecting our needs, and again, it's important to have even there is a lot of people, well, like Flash doing a blog, or like us talking about this. There is, well, TikToks, there is Instagram stories, there is posters. It's because people need that sort of connection, and I've learned so much that I wouldn't believe so from others. Like, even me identifying as a non-binary, I didn't know until I was like 24, because before we weren't talking about that.
And about the shame thing, I must say I have more shaming feeling after when I think about my youth to come out as a lesbian, as I think about my kink career. I'm 14 as I come out to a lesbian, and it was for me a horrible. I write a letter to my parents because I don't can say to my parents. I feeling so alone in Nürnberg. It's a town of kind of 50,000 people, and it was a bookstore. I go then. I was 14, and I asked the woman on the counter, "Have you any books about lesbian or homosexual?" And they told me, "You have to go outside on this bookstore. We don't have books about this ugly people." It's so
That's for you.
Absolutely. And I feeling so alone. I go to the first gay bar in Nürnberg. The guys look on me. What do she here? A woman here? Oh no, oh no, oh no. But I won't feel the together feeling. But this was the most shame feeling for me. And as I came out with the Kinkster stuff, I was 19, and it was so much easier for me. It's absolutely no, it was the best feeling. But as a lesbian, it was horrible.
Sorry to hear that, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, yes, we have. I also come from a time where certain gay bars didn't want it to have any women or trans people among them. It's absolutely staggering. So even we as a community need to constantly do a lot of work on ourselves. It's very easy for us to be in our safe bubble, imagining we're also better than anyone else. Oh no.
I say a lot of the time, I must say anything. I must be with all of the guys every day. But when I go out with my puppies, I would like to be with my puppies, and they are all men. I don't need every time on the dark room or something like that. It's no interesting for me. But at the whole time, I think when I go out with them and I have fun and we have to listen to music and dance and drink a bit and we eat some, I would on the place with them. It's important for me, not only the gazing. And this is what the community have to learn, I think. We are lesbians, of course, and the gay men need their space, of course, but we don't have all the time together. We have more community together. That's the important thing, I think.
Yeah, we need certain kind of events, but we also need alternatives. Yes. And we also got a message that was thank you for talking about mental health and this. And I think, like, I always think of myself when I was 13 and struggling a lot with depression. I was like, I wouldn't have felt so lonely if I could see somebody like me struggling and maybe seeing somebody. I met a group of elder gay men once at London Pride, and I asked to have a picture with them. And they asked me, "Oh, what do you see in us ugly old people?" And I told them, I see the future and I see hope, because I will never thought I would live past being 25. That's why to me it was so important to even have this 1 hour, 2 hours together and people to see us. We're adults, we're cool people, we're from different countries, and it's by opening that things can improve. And it takes a lot of strength to ask for help, but it's the thing that will make you being able to continue with your life and also being able to support others. And so please get in touch with health providers. Stay safe. And
Thank you, Tony, by the way. Thank you. As a member of the old ugly generation, thank you.
Oh, come on. You're not, thank you. You're not ugly.
The young ones, they're going to realize they're going to be 80 much quicker than they think. And it's going to be dawning upon them.
But also, like, there is a lot of, like, age shaming. And
yes, actually.
They always try to separate us and to try to kind of divide us. And I think, well, as long as we are 18 plus, I think we can learn a lot from each other. You wanted to say something, Flash?
Yes. The age shaming is a really big thing. I think it's everywhere. And I think I'm just in the middle. And people still think sometimes that I'm in the beginning of my 30s, and then I have to disappoint them. And then
I was one of them. I told you.
Yeah, and some of it, like, you stayed and you stayed talking to me, but most of them still think, oh, you're older than 40. Oh, bye-bye. Hell, it's a thing, but it's okay. It's okay.
I'm so sorry to hear this. I mean, I'm 50 pretty much soon, but 40 is a taboo as well.
I'm having the time of my life, so I'm happy if they run away, they will
also,
get
it's
to 42.
such a shame because you're preventing yourself to getting to know somebody. Like, it's again this sort of fast food. It's like, oh, I'm ordering on the menu, and if this doesn't fit my menu, I just like, it's like dehumanizing us. And not in the kinky way some people enjoy.
I think we can blame the bigger society for that as well. You know, whenever we switch on the telly, most of the people we see there are fit young people. You know,
the body shaming and kink shaming. So important to appreciate the social and diverse aspect of the community. Thank you all so much. Well, thank you for listening. Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Aww,
there's a Buumi.
wasn't he going naked?
No, I said
go
I
on.
said that we were going to get censored, and that wasn't the main goal of the. Well, in a way, we were naked of our like shields, and we were kind of open. So in a way, we were open and. We also need to be kind to each other. That's something very important. I'm not very good.
I really hope that doesn't need emphasizing a lot, that we need to be kind to each other.
I think like we are often so harsh to ourselves because you grow up getting grades, you grow up getting measured in so many ways, and we have continuously reviews at work that kind of is always seen as being a person is a performative act rather than and that we always have to be perfect, that we don't break through. And I always say, like, you do your MOT to your car, okay? So you should do it to yourself, to your body, to your mental health, because you want to keep running. And there are many campaigns now, even on social media and in television and different charities, and even famous people being very open about their mental health now that we would never see before. Like, to go to a psychiatrist would be seen like, okay, this is bad, hide it, don't say it to anybody.
Here in Belgium, we have a good cause called Support for Children, and they want to emphasize the mental health of children. Sugar daddy? Who's the sugar daddy?
Sorry,
I'm 45. I'm 45 too, and I don't have a sugar daddy. What
somebody was saying being 45, sometimes it's interesting to see young ones. Some are trying to get some experience, some are trying to find their sugar daddy. Well, that's again, I think it's the problem with the media and the way they show kink. I'm not going to mention that awful piece of media that started with 50, because I don't want to even to say it. And that's again why we need healthy representation also in the kink community, and being open about mental health, because it's part of safety, looking after our mental health. I always say that's what you don't have to do. You see that that's a perfect example of what you shouldn't be doing, and especially the bit on consent. I mean, this should be registered, if I'm not wrong, Quincy. Quincy's the tech side of the streams. If there's Quincy's here. They're still here.
Sorry, what have I done?
No, I said this should be registered as well, if I'm not wrong. Was it registered?
Registered?
No? Yeah, like recorded. Sorry, I'm getting tired.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I was going to the Italian.
No, that's right. Yes, it is recording, and it will stay up on my Facebook, your Facebook, and Give a Woof YouTube. So it can be watched back anytime. So yeah, you can. It is recorded. It will go live straight after the live stream is finished.
Cool.
Technical things.
Yeah. And I mean, and also, like, sometimes having these talks help us like kind of get new ideas and new projects, and I hope we will make somebody out there maybe think on how they can improve their mental health or people that are around.
We've got a few
health.
minutes left. Do we want to each leave a thought to leave everyone with?
There is another comment. I think a positive way to look at aging kink is to consider the experience, knowledge that can be passed on. There are also older people new to kink who deserve just as much support as young people.
Yes,
absolutely.
I agree.
So true.
I agree.
Yeah, if we want to, as Buumi said,
I don't mind going first.
Go, Buumi, come on.
He prepared.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just gonna reiterate Lenda Paul, which is make sure you're looking after your own mental health and try to keep an eye on your friends and those around you.
Absolute.
Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. Yeah, just concur. Obviously, we need to be kind towards each other and towards ourselves. And there's absolutely no shame anywhere, especially no shame in feeling sometimes vulnerable and fragile. You know, that is what makes us human. And I think the more we can accept this, the better it's going to be for all of us and for all of our mental health. When we recognize we are fragile human beings on two fragile legs, you know, and can look often very, very fabulous with it. So, any questions, by the way? Health therapy, Facebook, ask me. I'm there. Remember, I'm a bit on the slutty side. So,
I love that. That's your mental health is important. I'm on the slutty side.
yeah, it doesn't need to exclude the
No,
other.
it's no, it's just fun.
The multiple faces of health therapy. So yeah, last
It's a
comment.
basic website. So, but
Yeah, one of the last comments. Don't forget about yourself. If you're happy, you can make others happy. And if you feel down, you can let others help you to become happy.
But the important thing is talk to each other. Please talk and say that what it mean to you, what happened to you, and take care of each other. Have an eye on it. Have an eye on your friends, but not only your friends. Take an eye of the whole. Let the eye on the best thing and take care of each other. That's the important thing. And be kind.
yes,
Yeah, that's was going to say is like, yeah, be kind to yourself.
Absolute.
And also, don't give up. There's something I always care to say is like, don't give up. It's hard, but it can and it does get better.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're all here to prove it, and we have seen it happening. So ask for help. There is no shame in it. And if the first time you don't get the kind of open response you're hoping to, ask again. There is always a door open, and there is always going to be somebody to care for you.
Yeah.
And so thank you for joining me. Thank you for giving me these 2 hours of your time, and thank you for the people that listened. And again, I love how we can stream this we're not in the same room, but we are on the same kind of boat, and we care.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks
I'll
for
do another
inviting us.
heart.
Thank you for inviting.
And thank you for Quincy. And thank you for Quincy to give us all the technical support.
Yes, Quincy, you rock.
Quincy.
Thanks, Quincy.
Thank you all.
We love you.
We love you all.
Love to all. Thank you.
See you guys. Pleasure.